reviewing the sessions from the Global Game Jam, right? So what was the theme?
What home means to you.
Yeah. What home means to you, right? So that's the idea. So there was some of our students, I think, went to Hammer to participate in the actual official side event. So they participated in the big deal, if you like. Did it locally, or did you go there?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, you were there. Cool. You can share some experience later on. Brilliant. You volunteered. That's good. So, yeah. And so we have a few presentations of the jams that have been run locally, and of course at the real event. So, floor is yours.
It was what home means to you to tell us. I talked about it that when I'm home I like to see movies and TV series and that sort of things, and therefore I made an app that makes it easier to see find movies to watch. And here on the start page we see what's featured on the movie database, we can go in and see ourselves info about it, like Dennis, release and runtime, and as you, Christopher, wanted to see the average rating, I also did that. And electronics and some info. We can also see videos and the homepage if that's available, and you can see similar movies. So if I, for example, Nova movie I want to watch, I want to see a similar movie like that, I can go to so similar movies, and I have a list of things, like for example you mentioned, and it's certain place about that. To see a video, I just click and select the video here, and I can show you exactly what it would like, but it would go here and show the video. And I have some settings like the language for the text and language for the videos, because that's two things I can sense, and also if this has a backup or not, if it exists. Yes, I have most of the it's getting information from the movie database, and so yeah.
Good.
And
Cool.
questions?
Questions, yes, that's right. Cool. So everyone got the gist? Any questions from your side? No question? Okay. Right. So one of the questions that I would of course ask, and I planned you yesterday already, right? So you kind of brought it back to in the beginning by saying what homes means to you is watching movies, right? So so have your movie selection with you. So and you included the ratings, which is really helpful. So when you're developing the app, right? So the app is kind of flexible because you can use it in very different settings and purposes, right? You could also use them at, well, a non-home setting where you, for example, use your friends to decide which movie you want to watch, right? So,
and the same if I added TV series to tab later on.
do it. Exactly, right. So that's right. The one of the questions. So how much time did you spend in actually thinking about the concept, and how much time did you implement it? If you, I mean, on doing research on programming language libraries and so on, and how much time did you actually use implement it? So like in those three components: concept, research, and execution. What's your distribution there? What do you think?
Well, first of all, before we started to make it as an iOS app, because I want to learn more about Swift and such things, and I decided to so that was quick to decide that as soon as I found something to do, and this came up quite quickly,
Okay.
and we first had new project team, and and then I started to implement things and did the research, and that quite similar, or quite together as it comes. But one thing that I first tried to implement was to also have so if it exists on Netflix and such things, and that I took right quickly, because the libraries I have seen did that sort of things first. It happened that only US and UK supported, so it was quite small in terms of checking and country-specific content, and I had to, even though it was free, I had to give away a credit card info and such things, even though it was free, so I didn't want to do all that stuff for a small thing,
Yeah.
so I did took away quite early on, but then it was just developing and setting all together and do research when I had some problems or needed to set up some endpoints or whatever.
Okay. Right. Okay. Is there any general lesson learned in terms of using Swift? I think that's amongst the first applications or applications built with Swift that we have seen in the rapid prototyping context. Is there any message you can give to the Android people? Because there's, I think, a lot more people with Android exposure here, simply because we teach it here, and probably also because it's more readily available because it's an open platform.
Yeah, well, it's Swift is a little it's not so similar. If you take a quick look, it's not so similar than the advanced C++, for instance, but they are quite similar, but Swift is not so similar, and because of syntax it's more like Go or such things, because and you don't need actually to decide its variable types and such things either.
Right.
And so it's good. Now after some days and weeks working on it, I do it quite easily. So it's quick to learn if you set yourself into it.
Right. Yep. Yeah, cool. Sounds good. So that was a single project, solo project, so quite ambitious. But you know, you pulled it off, and I think it has all the features you wanted, right? So is there any feature that you had planned for but didn't implement?
Not a specific feature, but I want to take it through to an implement TV series, for instance, or adding for if I, for example, did go here and send text to Norwegian,
Yeah.
and then I would get and go here and someone who doesn't have a Norwegian language or description, I would get all this info, but this info would be empty or blank, so because it doesn't exist. So
Sure.
what I would do is to have a first or a second language to add into certain to have, for instance, Norwegian as the first language, and if it doesn't have a description, that I should go to get info about the second language, which would be English or something else.
Yeah, the kind of default setting, right? So fall back in case things don't work out, just switch to English and you'll be fine, kind of thing. Yeah, okay.
And that's the same on videos, because in some things that they have also language specific videos. So if I go, for instance, to a source maybe here it using that it's not any videos, but if I took this to put in Norwegian, it exists a video.
Right.
Or, so if I send to it Norwegian, it would display. I could display a video.
Okay. Cool. Good. Sounds sensible. Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's a good overview. And the next one.
Okay, so the theme was what is home to you. So when I brainstormed with my group, we figured that what home is to us is where we feel like we belong, and also the local. Okay, cool. I probably need an Ethernet cable. Also, there was a local theme of art in Hamar. So the concept we came up with was, well, we went through a lot of iterations on Friday evening on like exactly how to nail down exactly what to do. But what we ended up with was you're a star that comes alive in a painting. So you want to find your way through the paintings and onto the real sky. So where you belong, like among the other real stars. And also the setting is now it only has 2 pictures, but an art gallery. Okay. So you come alive, you fall down, and your goal is to navigate through the levels. We originally had planned for at least 3 levels. Unfortunately, our artist didn't have time to make more than 2, so we have to. So you shoot a stone that breaks the bridge, fall down to the river. And there's another stone up here. It's slightly dark, so it's kind of hard to see. There. That there's a rift in the painting, so you can jump through. And it takes you to the next painting, where we had a lot of dirty birds.
Wow, okay.
So these are enemies that you can shoot and kill. They'll not kill you, but they'll knock you off the platform. This is kind of hard with empty blood. Come on. Yeah, hard with empty blood. No. Oh my god. And there's supposed to be another rift down in the bottom here. For some reason it doesn't show, but we didn't have time to fix that. And then we also wanted to have a path where you're driving out through the window. We didn't get that to work either before the time was up. So yeah, now you're on the rails there. Cool. Basically. So I've only done 1 semester of programming, so I didn't do most of the programming here, but what I could contribute was the level design that I gave to the artists. So I started working on that right out of the gate, and I also did some of the triggers, like with the stones in the first painting, to like make the bridge and the stones disappear as you get them, stuff like that.
Cool.
So yeah,
Nice,
this is
nice.
our project.
Cool. Questions by you guys? You're shy, right? Probably need to get marks for participation in the future, because the best question should come from you, not from me, right? So first of all, I mean, you were one of the few ones that actually attended, right? So how was the atmosphere there? I mean, what was your team size, for example, and how how the group dynamics?
We were pretty large. We were 7 people in the group. 2 of them were artists, so we had a 2D and a 3D artist, and then we had 4 programmers and me that kind of did the
Come on, 5 programmers. 5 programmers, okay.
Yeah. So that was the team size. Most of them were familiar with making games. Most of them were from the game course in Hamar, and had to work together before. But we were also a couple new people in the mix that hadn't done anything. I was the one with least experience. The other one that hadn't made game before, can program and is working as a programmer, but hadn't made game before. So, yeah.
But everyone had background in using Unity to some extent, or
yeah, at least to some extent.
so there was no learning time, or not much of a need to learn that framework from scratch, right?
No.
But I would imagine if you did level design, the triggers and so on, you probably learned quite a lot yourself,
yeah,
right?
I did. So I was like working with the artists, like, oh, how can we do this? And then I was also working with the programmers, like, what can we do? Because we were pretty, like, right out the gate, we only figured out, okay, you can jump and you can shoot, and that's like all the 2 only mechanics. So trying to figure out like what challenges can you have with only those 2 mechanics was pretty hard. But yeah, I learned a lot. It was a lot of fun. We managed to delete our entire project like 3 hours before deadline because of Git conflicts, merge conflicts.
Right.
So Git history. So I lost about an hour work like right before deadline, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's also a good lesson learned, right? The more people, the harder it gets. I would imagine, like, if you are 5 programmers, right, de facto. I mean, how do you split work, right? You
Yeah,
did
yeah.
like those two levels, and it's really hard, I would imagine, to you know.
Yeah,
how
so
did
we
you
actually had a pretty good split of work. One of the programmers was working on like the star, like the particle effects, but the star. On the first level, there are some fireflies that like mark the stones a little bit, so they're easier to see. Let me see if I can. Stones are gone out. But around the boulders there were fireflies, and also there's particle effects in the river. So I had one guy mainly working on that. One guy working on like the tracking of the movement between, especially on the bottom of the river and from the start on the top of the picture and down. Stuff like that. And one working on enemies and sounds, so we kind of managed to split it up pretty evenly anyway. But since we're working on the same scene at the same time, we merge conflicts from hell. And also the internet was really slow, and we didn't have any Ethernet connections nearby. So one of the programmers was like basically just stuck not being able to fetch the project from Git.
Right.
So.
That sucks a bit. Okay, so meaning you solved coordination by exclusion, right? So, so that guy couldn't do anything anyway.
The last 3 hours after we had like everything just got deleted, we were like taking turns on the same computer and just to not like override each other. So.
Wow. What was the average team size in the jam?
It was very like some people were like 8 or 10, and some were working alone. So.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So what from your own perspective, lesson learned, what would you do the same or differently? I mean, or I don't know.
So we ideally wanted the Unity collaboration tool to work.
Yeah.
Didn't get it to work. If we need to use Git, at least work on different scenes and have one person coordinate and put everything together into a main scene. So that's the biggest lesson.
Yes, okay, but interacting with artists and programmers also is kind of a new experience, right? We don't really have that here much, right? Because usually everyone is programmer, right? So we have a bit of a kind of bit of focus there. So is that what's the dynamic there? Because they work quite differently, right?
Yeah.
So
I actually ended up being kind of the chain between the two, since I was doing level design to begin with. So working with the artist, like what will fit here, what kind of elements would be good. The in-between stage was a farm stage, so we had some interesting there with like jumping onto a tractor. Is that the same in English?
Tractor. Tractor, yeah, okay.
I don't remember.
Tractor, I guess. I don't know. You guys tell me, yeah.
So and then for example, with the boulders, trying to figure out how to solve that both art-wise and programming-wise.
Right. Okay. Oh, interesting. Quite ambitious. So how much sleep did you get on those days?
I actually slept for quite a few hours. We were all pretty, like, since most of them are actually like working full-time jobs and needed to get up on Monday, it was pretty important for everyone to keep their sleeping schedules.
I see.
So we actually did go to sleep like at the latest at 2 and at like 8.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So it was fairly humane, the working conditions there.
Yeah.
So okay, that's good to know. Cool. Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. Any more thoughts? Follow-up questions? No?
It's visible that you have had artists there, because that looks
Definitely.
significantly better than I would expect from something. I mean, ours look like this.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see it in a second. Yeah, it's pretty impressive actually what you guys came up with there. Yes.
So I'm a little bit annoyed that like the pathing, for example, from the last picture to the window doesn't work, because it would be so cool and like just a little bit more touch polished. But I mean.
Yeah. So. Just talking about, I mean, I agree. The art is quite stunning actually.
Good art shows a lot. So.
Huh?
Good art shows a lot.
Yeah, it shows a lot. Yes, that's exactly. So it really feels.
So I also had some fun rigging the hitboxes. That was kind of, because that's drag and drop, so it's easy for me to do, even with little experience. So trying to figure out like where to put hitboxes when because it's kind of 2.5D. So it's set up in 3D, but you kind of play into the So.
Yeah. So, is there any? You played the game briefly. I couldn't see any hints or the like. I would have struggled probably playing it to some extent because I wouldn't know when I can activate and how I can use the mechanics, right?
Yeah.
So.
So I kind of tried to do it in the first level where you jump onto this bridge here.
Yeah.
And then it's a little bit. The picture is a little bit dark, but there are actually fireflies between here or behind the boulder. So if you get stuck, there is some glimmer there that'll show you. Okay, there's something here.
Right.
At least.
Okay.
And the same with the boulder down here.
Okay.
It has fireflies behind.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right. So you think then it would be the second one is kind of more obvious, right? So but then the game that level would be quite playable if there's some hints anyway for everyone.
And in the second picture on the end here, it looks kind of wonky here. Don't mind it. There's supposed to be like a rift here as well, like there was in the first picture, but
right.
Didn't have time to fix it.
Fair enough.
The sprite is there.
Yeah.
It just doesn't show.
Yeah. Sounds good. Cool. Nice. Well done. Thank you very much. That was a great insight into what happened actually at the jam. So thank you. Nice. Cool. Interesting. So who wants next?
Us.
And compete on the design level. Go for it.
We can't compete on the design level, I'm afraid, but because I made the textures and I'm not a texture.
That's good. Very honest.
Yes.
So HDMI is sometimes a bit of a pain. And Ethernet is probably on the other side. Oh, you may not need it, right? It's all local anyway, right?
It's all local. The cable isn't very long. I guess I'll just like that.
You just compromise a bit. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. So we made this we have never actually gone back this far. Okay, and let's restart the bloody program then. This haven't happened before. Every other time I hit the reset button, it had worked just fine. I'll have you know.
That's fine. It's a prototype.
Yes, it very much is.
All good.
So we made this game, and as you can see, it lags because, our computers are a bit more powerful than this laptop, and there are too many particles. So we should have had less of those. We use the theme of home, what it means, as something you will go through anything, even if it is certain death, to get to. In this instance, the home in the background, as you can see. And you go through the snow that will quite obviously kill you. There are not enemies, but there are fireplaces and apples that randomly spawn. Apples represent food, and fireplaces represent fireplaces and heat. So you have to go near fireplaces to heat up, and for some reason there spawns apples where you will die, because I said sound. I said sound, no.
Oh yeah, I forgot that sound.
Sound. I can't turn up sound. Okay. I'm not allowed to turn up sound. Anyway, if you fall down here, you're supposed to be a Wilhelm scream.
Right.
It works when the sound works, but my computer won't allow. Okay, why doesn't this work? It worked. Okay, the retry button worked 5 minutes ago.
It looks like maybe the build is broken in some way.
Yeah, we are not using. We had to build it, and the build. Well, it's not ideal.
Yeah, okay.
Should he present instead?
Yeah, he can.
Yeah, we have a fallback, so.
Can I get your adapter?
Right.
All right, yes. So it's work in progress, we sent.
Yeah.
Yes.
In multiple senses.
Yes. Okay. So when you touch the fire, right? Do you need to avoid it as well to some extent? Like
at some point you have to leave, or you will die of overheating.
Okay. So they have you. Okay.
Did my computer crash?
that would
This
complement.
game is too well.
It were stable enough when it were in Unity, but this thing doesn't have Unity installed.
Yeah.
And I think my computer crashed.
Kill the computer with particles.
Might have actually happened twice. It might have overeaten.
Yeah, it's the most brutal form of testing, running on some other hardware, right? So usually things fall over. So
Yeah, my computer is crashed. Yeah,
Right.
that's
That's why I remote connected, because
yeah, but then it lagged even more. So I couldn't get it to work effectively there, although I think it would have been better anyway.
how I get there?
Yeah, it's true.
Okay. Oh, we have labels. Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah, he didn't have to be late as well.
It looked like the UI didn't work properly in the build for some reason.
Right.
I might have forgotten to close the last edition.
No, that's when you done it. So the actual point of the game is to try to get as far to the right as possible, and you will never get home. Like that's just the brutal reality of the game. You will die at some point.
The primary reason is because there's a hard end on the stage.
Okay. All right. So the fact that you're dying eventually is intentional, or is it
Yeah.
just an artifact of the prototype?
It is intentional.
Oh. Okay.
As we said, it's the home is something you will go to certain death through a snowstorm to get
Right,
to.
a certain death. So how do you motivate the player? I mean, if the player knows he or she will die eventually anyway.
Well, it's a score based.
So you're working with a
try to get
score,
the
right?
highest amount of score.
Okay,
right?
that sounds-
We
Oh
talked
my
about
god, that way.
we talked about adding like a scoreboard, like a leaderboard or something. But
Yeah,
we hadn't time to do it. So
Plus prototype.
yeah. Cool. Yeah, that sounds good. You have sounds, so
we have sound.
Yes, music on a loop and
Right.
wind.
Should probably jump in a bit.
Ready?
Yeah.
Might be a bit, low.
That is
Also,
the-
I did notice that when you walk, you're so thin that you can't see yourself. So, like when you walk to left or right, your character is so thin that you can barely see yourself if you are on a black background.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we didn't get to fix that.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Those are details, I guess, right? So, cool. Yeah. Well, I think you're kind of aligned with the theme. I suspect. I don't know. It's a matter of interpretation, I guess. But I like this determination to die eventually. So that's a kind of an interesting driver. I'm not 100% sure how I will play it under those conditions, but let's leave that to the actual players. So can you talk a bit more about how you actually split your work? Because you're like now a team of 4 people, right? So we heard right now how it's done with cross-functional teams with designers and programmers and so on. But here I think we only have programmers, right?
Yeah.
You guys.
Yes.
Let's suspect that. So how did you share and distribute your work?
Well, one of us had to make the textures, so I became the texture guy. And then we also just gave me the sound job because I finished I finished most of the text on Friday, and then I made the backgrounds on early Saturday, and then I needed something to do, so then sound were the secondary concern, so I took that, and then I did some random stuff like the particles. Made that
Nice.
too. 2 of us were programmers, and 1 of us were the level designer, and the programmers each had their own thing to work on. One of them had the world, and the other had more of the player,
Yeah.
I think it was. And we each had our own scene to work on, so that we could just stitch it together to a single thing by the end, and so that we got fewer merge conflicts and such. I mean, we still got the merge conflict that took us some time. When we, was it a merge conflict? We did anyway have a problem with the player. When we moved him over, we forgot to actually move some other objects it depended on, so it crashed and we weren't sure why.
Yeah.
So that took a bit of time from us. But,
Right.
Essentially, in that case, what happened was that the death message system was for some reason connected to the movement,
Okay.
and so therefore you couldn't move.
Right.
And it also disabled the player script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
After finding that out, we fixed that.
Cool.
Yeah, the biggest problem with merge errors were with the scene itself. I think at one point you were like making like a big part of the level, and then we got a merge error, and only the top part of the level actually saved, and the rest didn't.
You mentioned that, yes. Okay.
So next time, I don't think we should use scenes.
Or use more scenes.
More scenes.
Yeah.
Maybe only like specific, like always have specified that this person now works on the primary scene. Nobody else touch it until it's finished.
Yeah.
Sounds sensible. So, but in the end, you managed to have a reasonably equal workload, I hope, right? Or to some extent, you were able to fork out some work for everyone, right?
Yes.
So even though we had this kind of problem of bringing it back together, right? So, and I really appreciate it. It didn't fix the negative score thing. That's really, really cool, actually. So. The question is, when do you actually take your score, right? So is it, you know, now, or when you so it's even that is continuous in your game.
Yeah.
So that is really refined. I you know, quite impressive.
It's up to the player.
There's a lot of things that are up to the player. I understand. Yes. Cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, sensible. You know, good motivation. I think nobody needs introduction of how to do it. Mechanics are straightforward. Yep. Can recharge. Questions from you guys? Yep.
Are the particles just for show, or do they actually push you back when you hit them?
They are just for show. We have a constant effect that increases over time. We believe that it's essentially like wind. Yes.
So you, in addition to killing the player slowly, you're also killing the computer slowly.
Yes. Very much so. I did introduce below where the camera is, an area where the particles dies, which were actually more difficult to implement than I believe, because I hadn't done it before. And when I googled it, they just said you need a three-dimensional shape, and I didn't think of just connecting a three-dimensional shape to the camera. I later figured out how to just do it with a two-dimensional shape, which it worked just fine, and connected it to the camera, so we didn't need to, you know, have it everywhere you could die. So that fixed it, really.
Cool.
The particles themselves are only in the camera screen. Everywhere else in the level they're not showing.
Right.
So we're not completely killing computer.
I mean, we killed one already.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah, in the
It was
effects
too weak.
afterwards. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's just sensible punishment. Yes. Cool. Other thoughts, questions?
When does the game end?
When you die.
when you die.
So yeah, and even then the score continues in whatever direction. It's random as well, right? Is it right? Depends. No.
We're going downwards.
Okay. Cool. If no one has any questions, I think yep, sounds like a sensible exercise. You know, so well done. Thank you much.
Oh, the Windows update. That explains it.
Windows updates. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. So incompatible Windows updates. You guys next. Good.
How are we doing on time, by the way?
We have 5 minutes to 1. Are you constrained?
Are we constrained? Can we do it in 5
Could I
minutes?
be rude and run outside?
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, like you said, you. Good. So of the other guys here, who jammed as well? Did you guys jam? Yeah. Are you in time pressure? Yes. When do you need to be?
We need to be. My system is support.
Oh yeah, but that's fine. No, I mean more like until 1 o'clock. So cool. So you are right now. So who's next? No one. Then was there anyone else who wants to go next? I think you guys then. And spectator. You guys as well. Okay. All right.
Hey, this will mean it works.
So let's see if we crash another machine here, for the sake of authenticity, to test the hypothesis. So let's see.
Our game hasn't actually that intensive at all.
But you made your own assets, right? You should emphasize that. You know, don't forget about that. So.
We also made our own assets. So the fire I did take, I have a source for that, and the apple is a modified faithfully to Minecraft texture.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Should
Yeah, Minecraft
the
is a good source,
background?
huh? Yeah.
Yes, for Pixar, there are lots of texture packs.
So
I did
we're
know the icons.
Ah, right. Okay. That sounds good.
we're a team of two. We're mostly programmers. I took on the small role of asset creator, just going into paint.net and making some sprites for us. And you also made the music.
Yeah. Well, we have some issues with the input, I think, is it? Or
I didn't quite catch.
we don't see anything yet.
We don't see anything yet.
Or anymore, rather.
No, I have not started the game yet. So, yes, maybe.
There.
There's what? Excuse me.
We saw before. It was just. Let's see.
Let's see. Hopefully. If we get. Okay. My focus operation. So, okay, yeah. The team was home. We have a home here. It's in the middle of winter, and it's becoming a snowstorm. So your task is then to take care of your home by hunting food, shopping firewood, and find toys for your kids. Because what more important part of the home is the family. So we have a home, we can interact with it too. And today we have a neighbor named Peter. We also have our inventory system, which we can drop stuff from.
Oh, yeah.
And we can pick them back up. We can also talk to our neighbor. He needs some firewood. And he is also willing to trade. He has firewood already, but he thinks he needs more. So talk to him again. We sort of automatically just assume that you want to complete the quest, so we just take the 2 firewoods from your inventory and just complete the quest. You see the reward. Oi!
Fully turn up.
Oh yeah, we have a settings menu, so maximum overdrive. I still don't hear anything. Oh well. In a house with grass and logs, we have some tracks here. There's also some lakes, which I have a box on, so collision works. And we see that there's a rabbit hiding behind the tree. I originally intended for the rabbits to move around and run from you once you got too close, but I didn't get that far. Instead, there's just meat bags. The trees drop a random amount of logs.
2 to 8.
2 to 8, yeah. You pick them up. There's also we have some other neighbors. And here it is, the inventory when it's like sufficiently full, and meat is expensive. There's no actual currency in the game, so you sort of have to trade everything in one batch. And you end the day by interacting with your house, and it says sort of like how much resources you collected in that day. We should also have communicated beforehand how many resources expected from you, but we didn't have time to do that. So it is at the end of the day, and the quota doesn't change from day to day anyway. So
Actually does.
Does it?
Yeah. I think I only changed like down to logs, but yeah, there's an array of like how much you have to do.
Okay. Dark and stormy night. And on the second day, there's a strong wind occurring, so it will be constantly pushed to the left, and moving against the wind slows you down, and it's also faster to move with the wind.
I see a rabbit there, yes.
Yeah, the rabbit is still hiding behind that tree. Probably a rabbit hole somewhere here. There was also a rabbit that spawned outside the house more, and now there are tracks up here for a different rabbit. We also have more neighbors. Here's some pictures. It's over the through people's houses. And sure enough, next day, and day 2. Spring is approaching. It's a really short game. And now the wind has stopped. Yeah, we have a couple of bars there, I kind of forgot that. Warmness, we sort of disabled because we already have like a time measurement on you anyway, so it kind of didn't make sense to have 2 of them. But we have like a resource management bar, like gather logs for firewood so you can keep your family warm, fed, or happy. Hello player, you like sticks. We also it was supposed to be a quest here to say that hey, one of our neighbors is missing, and it would give you like a hint to go look for him. You would get hints to go far north in this direction, and oh look, here he is. And then we stole a toy that was on his body. That's one quest.
So you have the subtle humor embedded in the game, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like
A bit of a dark thing going on there, yeah?
yeah. And there's his house, and there's our other neighbors. They're fine.
Right.
Yes, I didn't make enough NPC assets. That's what they say. Rabbits still doesn't move. And once you survive the winter, you get like a text saying you won.
Right.
Yeah, and clicking extend just closes the application.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Anything I missed that we should draw attention to? There's also a loss condition where you just don't do anything. So let's see if we can. That was a quit button. That's the play button. So you get sent out to gather firewood and gather meat. Like there's a rabbit right here that you shoot. Or alternatively you could just go right back in. Like nothing. And your wife leaves you because she told you to go outside to gather materials, and you came home empty-handed.
Okay, I see. Right. Yeah, fairly realistic, I guess. Yeah, it sounds good. Okay. So, did you have some element of randomness in there? I mean, or some element. It seems at some stage you have, but the rabbit is always behind the tree. I don't know. So
yeah, like we could have made some scripts in order to spawn the rabbits in certain locations, like then have tracks to hint that there's a rabbit in this area, and then we can go look.
Yeah.
But sort of ran into time constraints. Like I would first prioritize having the rabbits move, and then put in time to have the rabbits spawn in random locations.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. Another thing is, I mean, the game seems it's kind of some sort of strategy game in the widest sense, right? So you don't have a distinct enemy though. So if you had a threat condition like a bear or something you either probabilistically shoot or not at all, meaning you need to run away from it, would probably add a bit of an edge, if you like, to the mechanics of the game, and also to your skills, I guess, right? So
like we have the most fearsome enemy in the game, and
that's the wife. They're the wife, yeah. But for the wife, you can run away, right? So I mean, you just stay away basically in this case. Whereas if you need to go out, you need to of course have a complementary, struggle, if you like, there as well.
Yeah.
But that could be interesting.
Yeah, like we have the mechanic of it's like damaging stuff, like the trees and the rabbits.
Yeah.
I thought about adding sort of like enemies and stuff, but that would kind of happen at the same time as the rabbits would be able to move.
Yeah. Cool. Questions from your part? Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Good question.
So once my wife leaves me, can I actually close the application, or I'm just left this constant reminder of my failures?
You are stuck here.
Fantastic.
This is the screen that we dubbed the depression.
It's actually a new operating system with deletes Windows and everything. So it's basically.
Okay, yeah, that's. It automatically becomes your wallpaper, right? After you finish the game, right?
That's right.
One of those. The least I actually have been
I
never.
think I actually did that for one of my projects a few years ago, where I could actually do some magic tricks in order to change people's backgrounds.
Interesting. Other thoughts, questions? No? Okay. Yeah, I sense the general excitement here. That's good. So, okay.
It's a shame that the sound didn't work.
Yeah. So dynamics in team of two were okay, right? I mean, we chatted a bit about yesterday already, but you guys got your stuff.
Yeah, like we used the
Unity
teams, which works fine for working. Like we kind of work in the same scene without too much hiccups. Like one criticism I have of it is that you sort of need to download a third-party merge tool, because you're sort of looking at 3 files at the same time. The base, your local, and the file you're merge conflicting with.
Yeah. I mentioned it. Yes, that's tedious.
So you have to like sort of look into what sort of tools Unity works with and try to figure out of that list if anything there's working for you. Like for me, I didn't bother with it any more than just taking the one that was on the top and then use that to see what is our merge conflict and then resolve it manually in Visual Studio.
Yeah. Cool. Nice. Cool. So are you carrying that project further? Maybe not. Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Cool. Sounds good. I think the motivation home is definitely in there, and I think you explored quite a bit with making your own textures and trying a bit different mechanics there, right? One point which you could also give a game a bit of an edge would be to have like a probabilistic success. For example, you may fail chopping certain trees, may fail chopping rabbits, but shooting rabbits, right? But by missing them, running out of arrows or whatever else, right? So the balance is one of the main, I think, aspects that could be improved in the game, right? Other than that, so you have like important characteristics in there, like trading. That's actually quite powerful, right? So, but you're kind of nearly there and having some sort of strategy, like where it's really about strategizing as opposed to just exploring. Right? So
like our initial. In our initial concept, we did discuss around like having to trade for certain stuff because you're supposed to get the list of things you're supposed to get at the start of the day.
Yeah.
But you sort of see your quota at the end of each day.
Yeah.
And seeing like, and you're supposed to be communicated at any point in time how much you have of everything, so that you sort of see that, oh, I'm missing some food. I don't seem to find any more rabbits, and I'm sort of running out of time. Like, are my neighbors willing to trade for it?
Exactly. That would be quite helpful. Yes. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you very much. So, go. Anything else? One group, 2 groups. How many are you? One group. Okay, go for it. Did you join the game jam itself, or did you do it here?
No, we were working from.
Yeah. Sounds good. So for all the ones that have done the jam this week, please, write the user reflection report. Have you heard about this reflection report?
Yes, and yes. A Google Doc and snapshots.
That's correct. There's a template in the wiki, right, that you can use, and it's mostly about describing what you did, rough project description, but most importantly what you learned out of it. So because it's more like a reflection exercise than being coming up with a specific result, other than some workable, ideally workable product. But it's more about what you learned, what you would do differently, team size, tools, skill set, and so on, coordination. So that's the key idea, right? So have a look at the report. If you have questions, raise an issue and we can clarify that. Or other students can clarify that, because many of you have some experience using that template already. Cool.
Okay, so we have a small presentation as well.
Architecture, okay, that's interesting.
So we came the day this started in hopes that we could do something around our bachelor project. This, and it was perfect because we're doing 3 models. So that's pretty much home.
So we need a way to render these 3 models in a 3D environment. So and we also need a rendering engine for our bachelor thesis, which revolves around AR. So the building models in themselves, they come down as in BIM format, which are the building information models. These contains a lot of trees, which is a way to render 3D models and represent them as data, where one node in a tree has 1 to 8 children. These come down to us in the form of protocol buffers, which are a format which can contain a lot of data. So we parse these models to render them in 3D. These protocol buffers, they contain the data, they contain a list of vertices, which are the things you render to see the points, and the indices in which describe the relation between these vertices, and also material information which you can use to give the rendering engine some colors and stuff. We also can get the material files in wavefront object files, which is the same thing with textures and shaders and stuff. So yeah, we were to make a rendering engine from scratch using Metal and Swift. Right. Which was an experience to say the least. So yeah, we will make a custom engine for the Android project at least. We will talk about what we do for iOS later. But we used iOS as our testing ground for this this hackathon. So there's a lot of maths involved in a rendering engine. Most of it are high school maths, advanced math in high school that I haven't used before for this. So that was fun. Also hard. So yeah, and also the rendering engine was a lot of fun to make, even though it was hard, because I was just laughing all the time, because you do you do a change in the code and you do not expect what's going to happen on the screen at all, and it's oftentimes very funny. But we managed to pull off a rendering engine. As of now, it's not that performant, but it renders basic objects, at least. We do have a demo of it, rendering a house. And a teapot, of course. So you can navigate using the camera, and you can rotate it around, zoom in, zoom out. Nothing too complex. That's what it should. It's not, the custom rendering engine hasn't, there isn't implementing shaders or textures or anything in it yet. It's just a vertices that's rendered on the screen.
Yeah.
Using Metal. So Metal is just similar to OpenGL, but for iOS. It's more low level. So it's a good experience for us to learn how to do the low level stuff before we start using OpenGL in Kotlin, but we will do the same in Android.
Right, okay. Interesting.
Okay.
Cool.
To get the demo up and running, the simplest thing is use SceneKit, which is a built-in 3D library for and there's a lot of underlying work behind all of this, which is here. I'll actually show how this works from the iPad, so you can actually see it working. So one of the things with these models and the way that this company does it is that every single model is streamed, so you don't get a full object file of a building. You get part. What happened? I guess the cable is bad. I can just leave it on the table. So it works now. Let's replug it in. It's not working on the iPad, then I'll get the iPhone instead and run it from there. iPad. Okay. So all of the models are streamed down, which means we can't just take an object file and throw it in there. We have to lazy load all of the objects. I'll take a small model which can, let's see, I can actually find this from this one. This hope is actually loading. Yep. So we can take the first model here. Seems like the internet's a little slow. Okay, there the model came in. So let's zoom out a bit. So you have different layers in a BIM model, of course. You have all of the different types of layers that the building has for construction and stuff like that. We can render all of those, but by default we only bring down the architecture because we're going to use this for AR later to line it up against an actual building. But you can get everything for these, and the models are rendered in 3D afterwards and shaded correctly according to a wavefront file. The wavefront file looks like I have the command here, yeah. Wavefront, the material file looks like this. So it has some names according to the models or materials, and then colors and opacity and stuff like that. So parsing that, including, and also the octree nodes and the protocol stuff to get this rendering. Heavier files, if you go to a larger project than this small house that I'm actually showing now, I can do that, but I'm not sure how it would be with the network because it seems slow. I have another project here which is a little bit larger. But with the internet speed it might not even load. So this is a hospital that we can pull down, and since it's streamed we're not really storing anything in the device other than the memory used to store all of the nodes. So
quite ambitious.
yeah, it's streaming, so fun with some internet.
So how many vertices do your model support? Do you roughly in numbers?
The largest project in Render's file system is 17 gigabytes of information of vertices.
Oops.
So we tried to run that one this morning. We got to 3 gigabytes of used memory until it crashed, loading everything. So yeah, that's why I do streaming and only load part of the data at a time. So everything is contained within boxes.
Yeah.
And you load one box at a time according to what you can see.
All right.
So, yeah, this seems to not be loading at all because this is a large building. Hospitals are usually large, so.
Cool.
Yeah.
There's
Something is there.
Part of it.
Part of it, yeah. A small part of the building is here.
Is that a multi-complex hospital or is it just one single building?
Oh no, it's multiple buildings. So yeah, the camera is kind of wonky at the moment. This is just a default camera. But it's coming down, but it's very slowly apparently. So I guess within a minute you'll see more buildings popping up. So yeah. I don't think we have anything else to show.
Cool. So it's actually very interesting. I like that work because there's quite a bit going on right in this space right now, like real-time inspection of architectural models using VR, AR, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So they already do this kind of stuff. They can already visualize buildings in 3D and stuff like that. That's the product that they deliver.
Yeah. Am I allowed to stream this, by the way?
What?
Am I allowed to stream this, by the way?
Yeah. You can stream this.
Yeah. There's no proprietary.
No, we're not sharing anything proprietary.
Good. Okay. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So they do streaming already, and it's a successful product, but they don't have AR yet, which is what we're doing here.
Yeah.
That's why we need native instead of, because right now it's running in a WebView.
Yeah.
Or under WebGL, which is slow.
Yeah.
So the rendering engine is in WebGL, so that's why we have to make the native.
Right, I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
So your contribution is to port from WebGL to native, basically, right? So you know what you need to deliver, like specs are quite clear, and you are basically improving performance, right?
Yeah.
Improving performance and rewriting a lot of the stuff that's going on a little bit
because their application is a web application.
Yeah.
So and the AR stuff we have to do natively.
Cool.
Yeah.
And the main reason for developing a custom rendering engine for this is WebAssembly.
Right.
So you can port it down to WebAssembly afterwards and actually run and perform it there. Because I think OpenGL 2 is coming to WebGL across all browsers, so you can get some more performance shaders at least. Nothing exciting is happening here. It seems like probably stuck.
It is a challenging task. I mean, if you appreciate the architectural models, they get fairly complex. Especially, BIM is the biggest.
The small building that you saw earlier,
right.
The first one, that's 250,000 vertices.
Right. Yeah, so that's definitely a
for just the architecture, and then you have all the pipes and everything like that.
Exactly, and plugs and whatever, because it's like complete models, right?
Yeah.
So you're natively parsing BIM, or are you using XBIM or something?
This is
because it's an XML format, right? BIM, right?
So when you export a BIM file, you get something called an IFC file.
Yep.
And those you can run through OpenIFC, which is a converter where you can extract all the information, and then you can build your 3D models out from there. So you can build object files and stuff like that, which you would normally have in 3D.
Yeah. Okay.
And these are parsed into octrees and then sent down as protobuf for increased performance in download.
Yeah.
And they're also chunked up, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes, which I can't really talk about.
I would imagine, yes.
But,
so for this jam, because no way you pull that off in that jam, right?
You can look at the git commit log. This is the rendering itself.
So what did you do? There's the parsing, there's the streaming, there's the rendering.
Yeah.
That is intense.
Friday to Sunday.
Okay.
So Friday to Sunday, downloading the octree information, downloading the protobuf files. Parsing protobuf is really simple in pretty much any language that has all languages pretty much has support for it. All you need is a proto file where you're telling what kind of information you're getting, and then you just run it through the parser and you have an object. And with these objects, like You will have the vertices, the indices, normals, and materials.
Yeah.
Materials are just an ID string, and then you have the face sets, which are how do you render these materials? Which indices are you actually rendering these materials on?
Yeah.
So doing all of that is pretty simple. Well, simple enough.
Yeah. Okay. Ambitious.
So yeah, I think we got the first render of the model on Friday.
Okay.
A very simple rendering of the model in SceneKit.
Right.
And then Saturday was more materials and stuff like that, and getting everything correct, and also speeding it up. So yeah,
cool.
This demo app on the iPad is done from Friday to Sunday.
Wow. That's pretty extensive, I think, in terms
and then
of.
also half a rendering engine.
Right. So how much more is left for your bachelor then?
One more game jam.
So
right, that's how we do it. Okay. Let me
see her.
Next presentation. So let's talk about BIM again. Yeah. But it's a challenging problem. I mean, that's quite interesting. Plus, it will be the default standard, right, for architectural models in the future. So at least in Norway, right? I think for every public building is required.
So
I think so. Yeah.
So
we can pull this into AR already. I did a small test with this on Saturday. It's not anchored to anything except for a flat surface, which is why it's moving around.
Yeah.
But it's
cool.
When you start anchoring this to corners in the building and stuff like that, this will be work as expected.
Nice.
Wow. So
cool. So something happening there, I think. Yes. Should keep an eye on you. So looking forward to your next game jam.
Yeah.
Perhaps we make it around architecture.
It won't be about the bachelors.
That's right.
Yeah. We probably won't do anything around the bachelors.
Okay.
This
cool.
is just a perfect moment to get a step ahead on the bachelors.
I understand. And also try out, right? So I mean, sometimes also what should be refined, probably you throw out stuff, substitute it, have performance issues somewhere that you want to.
We know the pitfalls now.
Okay.
Yeah, the most complex part will of course be writing the rendering engine. For iOS, we can just stick with SceneKit.
Yep.
Because ARKit supports SceneKit as well as a module.
Okay.
So we don't really have to do anything
to
get it working, as long as we can render the models and actually calculate the positions.
Yeah.
And we're good there. For Android, it's a little bit more complex.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass to get things working there, so that will be the hard part. The easy part was this weekend.
Okay.
Just getting things up and running on iOS, and Android is next. So
sweet. Cool. That sounds good. Well. Any questions from your side?
What were the most challenging part of it?
Well, for us, it was for the custom rendering engine. We spent a lot of time on the maps, basically around like projection and transformation.
Yeah.
That took a long time, and also like the free moving camera and how to project the models after the camera moves and display the new positions.
And of course the performance.
Yeah, that's what's causing the lag is when we do all these calculations. We can render in like 100,000 nodes into metal and it doesn't lag, but as soon as we start moving around, that's when the lag starts and we do all the calculations.
So it isn't the bad metal that is the bottleneck, of course, it's the map that we apply to it. So we know that's an issue.
Yeah, that took a long time.
I think there's only one shader as well, so you can do some shader magic to get things.
Yeah. Did you think about kind of working on the object format and optimizing that a bit?
So the 3D
like the wavefront, the OBJ format, for example, right? So it can be a bit. Perhaps there's opportunity there for.
Yes. So what we are downloading now is the high-res objects, which are more dense than others. But that part of the code from Lendo side is already optimized.
Okay.
Pretty much as you can.
Yeah.
So I don't think we will be touching that part.
Right. I mean, alternatively, you could do server-side pre-processing, right, and have various level of detail, and then stream appropriate to connectivity device needs, whatever,
so
right?
That's I also work there as a developer in the same company, and we have been thinking about getting the new NVIDIA cards and doing server-side ray tracing
Right,
to
nice.
actually just send you the nodes that you can see.
Perfect.
But that's way
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think unless we want to dig deeper into the architecture, quite literally, we
For
should be kind of
Code-wise, whatever is on here is public.
okay.
So there's nothing secret about what we have done.
So are you planning to, just for sake of interest, are you planning to put that open source event, or is that
This code, no.
No.
Everything that we develop right now is for the company.
right? Okay.
But we're allowed to show this part of the code.
Cool.
There's nothing magical happening here anyway, so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much. That was insightful. Thank you. Slightly different take on what we expected.
Yeah, well,
but
the theme was cool,
theme was
so-
spot on. I mean, yeah, we can't fault you on that one. That's admittedly spot on. I agree. So.
Home inside the hole.
Cool. Yeah. Exactly. So. Hang on. You just sneaked in. Did you? You participated in the actual jam, didn't you?
Yeah.
Right. Do you want to share what you did?
Sure.
Yeah, just set it up. So, sound, is it via HDMI, I think? See if you can hear something.
They might actually come up here for the professional programming course and introduce the concept there. So we want to see here. Cool. That's all it's.
Well done. So, yeah, HDMI.
On the other side, so keep it good enough. Yeah, it's operated sideways there. I don't think it's similar. I don't get away with it.
There we go. So, last presentation for the day, I believe. Is there no one else in the queue, right? No.
It's not going to take very long. I'm just going to show off the game.
Well, you still need to answer some questions.
Next time for a new campus where a big
I know, that's our main problem. We need to get some longer cables. Right? Oh!
There's no sound, apparently.
There's no sound? That's not good. Can
The
you...
game does have sound, but I'm not hearing it.
Yeah, I had the same problem, so it might be that there's no...
Yeah, no sound.
It might be that it tries to send this sound over HDMI, but it doesn't go anywhere.
Maybe. Anyway, so in this game, you play an innkeeper. You have an inn outside a dungeon, and you outfit adventurers and send them down into the dungeon.
Right.
So basically just pick items. And then in the morning you check snapshots. You get snapshots from the adventurers, and they send a snap before each hazard, telling you what the hazard is, and depending on what you sent with them, either they'll send you a snap of defeating the hazard, or you'll get a snap from a goblin who found the hole. And then the next morning, you now know what the first hazard was. It was cold, so we give them bonuses. And you can basically just switch out the stuff.
Right.
Any questions?
Okay, so what's the overall objective? I mean, what would have been the scope of that game?
The objective is to get the treasure from the dungeon.
Okay, right. So, but I mean, right now we saw 2 days, right? But the actual playing, is there any mechanics to do that other than just having the equipment?
This is kind of what you get when you have a team with 5 artists.
Ah, right. Okay. So you were Well, that's fine. That's fine. The question is just where the vision is, right? So, so you were a team of 2?
Team of 8, actually.
Act 8. And how was the distribution? 1 artist?
5 artists.
5 artists and
Yeah.
3 developers.
5 artists, 2 programmers, and some external sound guys. They weren't actually on the team. They just came by and helped us for like 10 minutes.
Okay, that's cool.
And the UI design.
Okay, all right.
No mechanics designers.
Right. Okay. Right. So the vision would have been a bit bigger, right? So if you would push it on, okay. So it's preparing, going for the challenge basically, and returning successfully or not, right? Okay. Interesting. So it's another good example of having good art, I guess, right? So we had an earlier example that was also quite impressive from the gem. There's similar composition. Well, no, yeah, slightly different, but lesson learned. What's the lesson learned?
Aside from all the programming stuff I learned about Unity and getting Unity to work together with Git, which it doesn't really work, there's something to be learned about team composition, I guess.
Okay, which is?
To not have more than half the team be the same role.
Right. So was there opportunity for work sharing, or was basically just one person doing everything, waiting until he or she commits and then continue from there, or how did you?
No, we did share the work, me and the other programmer.
Right. So okay. All right, and that worked well-ish?
Yeah, we used Liveboard, I think it's called.
Okay. Right. Okay. So you did basically concurrently.
Yeah.
Your work. Okay. Interesting. Cool. All right. So the topic home is then the inn, basically, right? Comes back to the recurrent visit to the inn. Okay. That's that for. Okay. Questions?
How do you win? Do you just win by choosing the right item?
Pretty much.
Can you show the win condition?
Yeah. So first it's cold, but you have 20 citrus. Then there's a basilisk, but you have a blinding bolt. And then there's a gold, but you have a basilisk. And then you get it. That's basically it.
Right. So it's really design intense, right? The game, right? A lot of art going on there. Cool.
A lot of art and not so much mechanics.
Yeah.
What did you use the most time on?
We spent more or less the entire first day. Keep in mind that Hamar didn't actually start jamming until like 8 in the evening. But we spent the rest of the first day just figuring out the steps to getting Unity to collaborate peacefully with GitHub, because usually it wants to push up all the meta files and all the hundreds of little changes it makes every time you open the editor.
Yeah, we got the Git ignore the first minutes.
Lesson learned, yeah. Have a Git ignore already, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just the Git ignore, we used Git cloud file storage as well.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions?
Cool. Other first questions? Cool. So is the art all made from scratch, or? Yeah? Wow. Okay, so it was really more like an art asset style kind of jam in a way, right? So for you guys.
Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Most of the work that me and the other programmer did was pretty much just setting up the systems for showing all of this.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you very much. Other jam down. So that's it. So quite a diverse set of presentations and contributions, right? So I mean, it's quite sensible to do it in conjunction with the global game jam. So you see the contrast of, what happens if you have really diverse groove composition and our local jams which are kind of more self-contained in a way, right? So ranging from teams that worked in set pairs of twos and did everything themselves. Teams that kind of knew already what they did, and the topic just fit quite well. So that's quite, and of course a bit more mid-sized teams in a way. But since we're always a bit more programmer heavy, it's quite a bit different from the usual outcomes that we see here. So that was quite good. In terms of following up, of course, please, the report, right? So roughly 1 week, and basically submit a link to the submissions page on the wiki. If you haven't found that, raise an issue or ask someone else, basically, because half of you guys are well experienced with the course already, and the ones that are not, they basically can piggyback on this experience basically a bit. How many gems do you guys have outstanding? So how many gems do you have left roughly?
One after this one.
After this one, okay, you guys?
This is the first one we took, so 2 more.
You have 2 more, you have 1 left, right?
I have 2 more.
You have 2 left, okay. So better, yeah. Is rep prototype is mandatory for you, right? You need to do. So you need to wrap it up before your thesis ends, right?
Yeah.
So it will be thesis, professional practice, and rapid prototyping on your curriculum there. Okay, that's cool. Cool. You guys started. You have 2 left, right? You have 2 left, and you are done, or done any? Okay, and you are done, right?
Yeah.
Cool. You're done. Cool. So the rule is just to recall, right? So 1 solo jam, 1 group slam, and 1 whatever jam, right? So just bear that in mind in your next choices, right? So you guys eventually need to go solo, right? For example. But other than that, cool. Well, thank you very much for your contribution and effort. It's often really hard to see how much work goes into those prototypes, right? And the point is, of course, you want to achieve as much as possible, but the essence is what you learn while doing it, right? So if you were in the jam and you got away with not doing much, that is kind of a lost time in a way, right? Because it's an opportunity for bring yourself up to speed in terms of skills, but also to interact with people and coordinate with teams. So try to learn that lesson when you participate, not just to tick the boxes. Because as you know, it's a pass-fail paper. So technically, you just need to pass all the gems, right? So it's not, you can't strive for an A. There's no A here, right? But it's in your own best interest to use that to skill yourself up, especially towards the bachelor. It's super sensible to, you guys doing it cleverly actually, right? You're using this as an, prototyping session for your bachelors, and then dismiss or actually continue that pathway, right? So that's quite cool. But you may not always have the luxury to neatly align it, as those guys can. So you can also just use it as a way of building up your skill set. Now, Unity was mentioned multiple times that you guys got more experience in Unity, right? So that's one of the purposes as well. So thank you very much, and have a good rest of the day. And then we announce another jam. Whenever a jam comes up, just post it on the issue tracker. We'll evaluate it, and Nathaniel puts one on the wiki when you come across it or whatever else. You just keep an eye on it, and then you go from there. Yep.